Have you ever noticed that the people who promise to stand by you are often the first to disappear when life turns against you? The friend who swore they would never leave suddenly becomes too busy. The person who celebrated your success quietly envies it. The one who said, "You can always count on me," counts the cost before they count your value. This isn't bad luck. It's human nature. Machiavelli understood something that most people spend a lifetime refusing to accept. Loyalty is often conditional, and trust given too freely becomes a weapon used against you. The painful truth isn't that people are evil. It's that most people are loyal to their own interests before they are ever loyal to you. Once you understand this, you stop being disappointed. You become impossible to exploit. Before we begin, I want you to participate in something simple. Go to the comments and write this affirmation. I trust wisely. I depend on myself. This isn't about becoming cold or bitter. It's about becoming aware. Because today's video isn't teaching you to hate people. It's teaching you how to stop giving away your peace to people who never intended to protect it. Once you understand what Machiavelli saw hundreds of years ago, you'll never look at friendship, loyalty, or trust the same way again. One of the greatest illusions people carry through life is believing that friendship alone guarantees loyalty. They assume that years spent together, shared memories, or countless conversations create an unbreakable bond. But Machiavelli observed something far more unsettling. Most relationships are not held together by emotion. They are held together by mutual benefit. Think about how many people enter your life when everything is going well. They laugh with you, support your ambitions, and call themselves your closest companions. Yet, the moment your circumstances change, many quietly disappear. It isn't always because they suddenly dislike you. More often, the relationship no longer serves their interests. This isn't meant to make you cynical. It's meant to make you observant. People naturally move toward what benefits them. Some seek status. Others seek comfort, entertainment, opportunities, or emotional support. Few stop to ask what they are giving in return. They simply follow what satisfies their needs. When those needs disappear, their commitment often disappears with them. This explains why betrayal can feel so shocking. You believed someone valued you for who you were, while they may have valued what your presence provided. The difference remains invisible until circumstances expose it. Machiavelli never advised hating people for this. He advised understanding them. Human beings rarely act against their own interests for very long. Even those with good intentions can become unreliable when fear, ambition, or personal gain enters the equation. The wisest man is not the one who expects unconditional loyalty. He is the one who never builds his entire life upon it. When you stop assuming that friendship equals permanent devotion, you become far more difficult to disappoint. You appreciate loyalty when it appears, but you never depend on it for your survival. That shift changes everything. Many people confuse kindness with trustworthiness. Someone smiles at them, listens carefully, or offers help during a difficult moment. And suddenly, they begin revealing every secret, every fear, every dream hidden inside them. Machiavelli would call this one of the fastest paths toward vulnerability. Information is power. Every detail you reveal becomes knowledge someone else possesses. Most people won't misuse it immediately. They'll simply store it away. But circumstances change. Friendships end. Competition appears. Jealousy grows. Resentment quietly builds. What once felt like harmless conversation can later become the very weapon used against you. This is why wise people reveal themselves slowly. Trust should never be granted because someone appears pleasant. Appearance is the easiest thing to fake. Character reveals itself only through repeated action over time. Watch how people behave when they gain nothing from being kind. Watch how they speak about others when those people leave the room. Watch whether they keep promises no one is checking. Watch how they respond when your success exceeds theirs. These moments reveal far more than flattering words ever could. The strongest individuals understand that patience protects them. They don't rush intimacy. They don't confuse attention with loyalty. They allow people enough time to expose who they truly are. Ironically, this often earns them more respect. Those who protect their inner world appear calm, composed, and emotionally stable. They are difficult to manipulate because there is little ammunition available against them. Trust is not a gift. It is a reward earned through consistency, and rewards should never be handed out cheaply. Many friendships feel permanent only because nothing has challenged them. Then one person begins succeeding. Suddenly, the conversations change. The enthusiasm becomes forced. Compliments sound hollow. Invitations become less frequent. Small criticisms begin appearing where encouragement once existed. Why? Because success changes relationships. Machiavelli understood that envy is one of the strongest emotions people struggle to admit. Few people openly confess jealousy. Instead, they disguise it as concern, humor, advice, or subtle criticism. They say you've changed. You're becoming different. You're forgetting where you came from. Sometimes these words contain truth. Often they are simply attempts to pull you back into the version of yourself that made everyone else comfortable. Not everyone celebrates your growth. Some people only enjoyed you while they felt equal or superior. The moment your confidence, wealth, influence, discipline, or reputation begins rising, hidden emotions surface. This doesn't mean every successful person loses every friend. It means success reveals which friendships were built on genuine respect and which were built on convenience. Real loyalty survives imbalance. False loyalty depends on it. The lesson is simple. Never shrink yourself to preserve relationships that require your weakness. The people worth keeping will respect your growth. The rest simply expose why they were never truly standing beside you in the first place. One of the greatest sources of hidden weakness is not physical strength or intelligence. It is emotional dependence. The moment your happiness, confidence, or sense of worth becomes attached to another person's presence, you quietly surrender a piece of your freedom. Machiavelli understood that people rarely control you through force. More often, they control you by discovering what you cannot bear to lose. The stronger your need, the easier you become to influence. Think about how many people stay in unhealthy friendships simply because they fear being alone. They tolerate disrespect disguised as jokes. They forgive betrayals that continue repeating. They constantly lower their standards because the thought of losing someone feels more painful than losing their own dignity. Little by little, they stop making decisions based on wisdom and start making them based on fear. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of being forgotten. Manipulative people recognize these fears almost instinctively. They notice who constantly seeks approval, who apologizes even when they have done nothing wrong, and who will sacrifice their own peace just to keep a relationship alive. Once they discover that weakness, they no longer need to threaten you directly. They simply hint at withdrawing their attention, affection, or acceptance, knowing you will do everything possible to win it back. This is why the strongest person in any relationship is often the one who is completely comfortable walking away. Not because they enjoy losing people, but because they refuse to lose themselves. Their self-respect is worth more than temporary companionship. They understand that loneliness is uncomfortable, but living without dignity is far more costly. Emotional independence changes the entire balance of power. When you no longer need constant validation, compliments lose their ability to manipulate you. When you no longer fear rejection, criticism loses much of its sting. When you no longer depend on someone else's approval, guilt becomes a far less effective weapon. Your decisions become guided by principles instead of pressure. This does not mean isolating yourself from others or pretending that relationships have no value. Human connection is important. Friendship, love, and loyalty enrich life when they are genuine. The danger begins only when those relationships become necessities instead of choices. A healthy bond is built between two complete individuals, not between two people desperately trying to fill each other's emptiness. Machiavelli's lesson is not to stop caring about people. It is to stop giving them ownership over your peace. Build a life that can stand on its own. Develop skills that make you confident, habits that strengthen your discipline, and a sense of purpose that does not disappear when someone walks away. The more complete you become on your own, the more freely you can choose who deserves a place in your life. Ironically, people often respect those who need them the least. They recognize a quiet strength in someone who is kind without being desperate, generous without expecting approval, and loyal without abandoning their own principles. Such a person cannot be easily intimidated, persuaded, or emotionally cornered because their foundation exists within themselves, not within the opinions of others. The greatest freedom you will ever experience comes when you realize that your happiness is your responsibility. Once you understand that, no one can control you simply by threatening to leave, withholding affection, or denying approval. You become someone who values relationships deeply but never allows them to become chains. And that is a form of power that few people ever achieve, because it begins the moment you stop needing people to complete what was already whole within you. Silence is one of the rarest forms of power because it forces people to reveal what words often conceal. Most individuals become uncomfortable the moment they are not receiving reassurance, explanations, or constant attention. They expect you to defend yourself, justify every decision, and chase after every misunderstanding. The moment you refuse to do that, they begin exposing their own intentions. Machiavelli understood that people often reveal themselves not through what they say, but through how they react when they no longer control your attention. Imagine someone spreads a rumor about you. Your instinct may be to call everyone, defend your reputation, and prove your innocence. Yet the more desperately you explain, the more you feed the drama they created. Instead, remain calm and observe. Notice who immediately believes the rumor without asking for your side. Notice who quietly enjoys the chaos. Notice who reaches out with genuine concern rather than curiosity. Silence becomes a filter that separates those who seek truth from those who simply enjoy gossip. The same principle applies to every relationship. Stop being the first person to send every message. Stop fixing every disagreement before the other person makes any effort. Stop carrying conversations that only survive because of your energy. Then watch carefully. Some people will never reach out. Others will suddenly realize your value because your attention is no longer guaranteed. Their actions will answer questions that years of conversation never could. Silence also unsettles manipulators. They depend on emotional reactions because reactions give them information. Every angry response tells them where your weaknesses lie. Every defensive explanation shows them what accusations affect you most. But when you respond with calm restraint, they lose the map they were using to navigate your mind. Uncertainty replaces control, and that uncertainty often forces them to reveal their frustration. This does not mean becoming distant or emotionally cold. It means learning that not every accusation deserves an answer, not every misunderstanding deserves a debate, and not every person deserves unlimited access to your thoughts. The wise person understands that constant explanation is often a search for approval, while quiet confidence speaks with far greater authority. Many illusions survive only because we never stop talking long enough to observe reality. When you become comfortable with silence, you begin seeing people exactly as they are. And that truth, even when it is uncomfortable, is infinitely more valuable than comforting words that were never genuine in the first place. The moment you place your entire sense of security in another person, you hand them a power they never asked for, or perhaps always wanted. Many people spend years searching for someone who will never disappoint them, never leave them, and never fail them. Machiavelli would argue that this search is not only unrealistic, but dangerous. The strongest foundation you can ever build is not another person's loyalty. It is your own character. People change. Circumstances change. Ambitions evolve. Even those with sincere intentions can become strangers over time. If your confidence depends entirely on someone else's presence, every change in their life becomes an earthquake in yours. But when your strength comes from within, no departure can destroy your identity. This is why truly powerful people invest more in themselves than in the promises of others. They develop skills that cannot be stolen, discipline that survives hardship, and emotional control that remains steady during betrayal. They understand that while relationships add value to life, they should never become the foundation upon which life itself rests. There is a quiet confidence that emerges when you know you can survive on your own. It changes the way you speak, the way you make decisions, and the way you choose the people around you. You stop clinging to relationships out of fear. You stop accepting disrespect simply to avoid loneliness. You no longer beg for attention because your self-worth is not determined by someone else's approval. Ironically, this independence makes you more attractive to genuine people. Those who seek to manipulate often avoid individuals who are emotionally self-sufficient because they know control becomes nearly impossible. A person who can walk away peacefully cannot be threatened with abandonment. A person who values themselves cannot be easily bought with praise. A person who finds peace in solitude cannot be controlled by the fear of being alone. Being your own greatest ally does not mean rejecting friendship or refusing to trust anyone. It means understanding that every relationship should be a choice, not a necessity. You welcome loyalty when it proves itself, but you never depend on it for your survival. You appreciate support without becoming addicted to it. You value companionship while remembering that your greatest source of stability must always come from within. When you become the person you can rely on through every success, every failure, every betrayal, and every setback, something remarkable happens. You stop searching for someone to rescue you because you realize you have already become your own protector. And that is a form of power that no betrayal, no rejection, and no broken promise can ever take away. One of the greatest mistakes a person can make is expecting people to behave according to ideals instead of according to human nature. From childhood, many are taught that loyalty is automatic, that good intentions are always rewarded, and that friendship guarantees lasting devotion. Reality rarely follows those comforting stories. Machiavelli understood that people are influenced by fear, ambition, pride, envy, desire, and self-interest long before they are guided by noble principles. The wise person does not resent this truth. He prepares for it. This way of thinking changes everything. You stop being shocked every time someone acts selfishly. because you no longer expect everyone to place your well-being above their own. You stop confusing beautiful words with genuine character. Promises become less important than patterns. Grand gestures matter less than quiet consistency. Instead of asking whether someone sounds trustworthy, you begin asking whether their actions remain trustworthy when no one is watching. Many disappointments are born from expectations that were never realistic. We imagine people will remain exactly as they were when life was easy. But pressure reveals qualities that comfort keeps hidden. Success may uncover envy. Failure may expose abandonment. Competition may reveal hidden resentment. These moments do not necessarily change people. They simply reveal the parts of them that had not yet been tested. The wise person also recognizes his own human nature. He understands that he, too, is capable of error, emotion, and flawed judgment. This humility keeps him observant instead of arrogant. Rather than assuming he is an expert at reading people, he allows time to test every relationship. He listens more than he speaks, watches more than he assumes, and lets consistency become the judge of character. This mindset is not about living in suspicion. Constant suspicion poisons the mind, just as blind trust does. The goal is balance. Offer respect freely, but reserve deep trust for those who have repeatedly earned it. Be kind without becoming naive. Be generous without becoming easy to exploit. Leave room for people to prove both their virtues and their weaknesses before placing them in your inner circle. When you stop believing fairy tales about human behavior, something unexpected happens. You become calmer. Betrayal hurts less because it no longer destroys an illusion you were desperately protecting. Praise becomes less intoxicating because you know admiration can change with circumstance. Criticism becomes less painful because you no longer measure your worth through the opinions of others. In the end, wisdom is not found in believing the best or the worst about people. It is found in seeing them clearly. The person who understands human nature walks through life with open eyes instead of closed expectations. He values loyalty when it appears, but never assumes it. He welcomes friendship, but never surrenders his independence. And because he builds his life upon reality rather than fantasy, he possesses something few people ever achieve. A peace that cannot be shattered simply because another person failed to become who he imagined they would be. So from this day forward, observe more than you assume. Listen more than you reveal. Judge people by patterns instead of promises. Protect your mind as carefully as you protect your future. Because once you stop trusting blindly and start trusting wisely, you gain something far more valuable than approval. You gain peace, clarity, and freedom. Before you leave, write this affirmation in the comments. I trust wisely. My greatest ally is myself. By writing those words, you're making a promise to yourself that your future will no longer be built on false expectations, but on wisdom, discernment, and the quiet strength that comes from relying first on your own character.